When we look at the passage in Numbers 5, where a jealous husband can bring his wife before the priest to be put under the test of drinking of dirty water to reveal whether she was unfaithful or not, can at first seem very unfair and almost inhumane towards women. But if we study this passage in depth, which we will do in this teaching, we will see that this is not the case at all, and that the responsibility as well as God's judgment falls entirely on the husband. Let's read the passage first. Then we will study in depth, and I will show you the Lord's fairness and favor towards women in these situations. It is always very beneficial to study the context of something in context of the whole Bible, to see what the whole Bible says about a subject, so to get the correct meaning of it. Otherwise, we are left with a skewed interpretation of something, which in turn can give us a wrong perception of God's character, especially when it comes to Old Testament scriptures. Numbers 5 from verse 11. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, If any man's wife goes astray, and behaves unfaithfully toward him, and the man lies with her carnally, and it is hidden from the eyes of the husband, and it is concealed that she has defiled herself, and there was no witness against her, nor was she caught. If the spirit of jealousy comes upon him, and he becomes jealous of his wife, who has defiled herself, or if the spirit of jealousy comes upon him, and he becomes jealous of his wife, although she has not defiled herself, then the man shall bring his wife to the priest. He shall bring the offering required for her, and the priest shall bring her near and set her before the Lord. The priest shall take holy water in an earthen vessel, and take some of the dust that is on the floor of the tabernacle, and put it into the water. And the priest shall have in his hands the bitter water that brings a curse. And the priest shall put her under oath, and say to the woman, Not man has lain with you. And if you have not gone astray to uncleanliness while under your husband's authority, be free from this bitter water that brings a curse. But if you have gone astray while under your husband's authority, and if you have defiled yourself, and some man other than your husband has lain with you, then the priest shall put the woman under the oath of the curse, and he shall say to the woman, The Lord make you a curse and an oath among your people. Then the Lord makes your thigh rot, and your belly swell, and you will not be able to conceive children. And the priest shall make a woman drink the bitter water that brings a curse, and the water shall enter her to become bitter. But if the woman has not defiled herself, and is clean, then she shall be free of the curse, and may conceive children. This is the law of jealousy, when a wife, while under the husband's authority, goes astray and defiles herself. Or when the spirit of jealousy comes upon a man, and he becomes jealous of his wife. Then he shall stand the woman before the Lord, and the priest shall execute all this law upon her. Then the man shall be free from iniquity, but that woman shall bear her guilt. When we read this at first, on the face of it, without knowing all the relevant facts, because we did not look at this in the context of the whole Bible, to see what the rest of the Bible says about this, we can come under error and see this as a lack of equality and a terrible injustice to women. But when we study this carefully and look at what the rest of the Bible says on the subject, we see a whole other side which is not in this one passage, but explained in other passages in the Bible. Hosea 4 shows how God exempts women from punishment for the sexual sin, and only inflicts punishment on men, when husbands and fathers are not setting a godly example in the house. Let's look at it. Hosea 4, verse 11 to 19. Wine and whiskey seduce the heart of my people and leave my people in a stupor. They ask questions of a dead tree, expect answers from a sturdy walking stick. Drunk on sex, they can't find their way home. They've replaced their God with their genitals. I will not punish your daughters when they sell the use of their bodies, or your brides when they do sex sins or commit adultery. I will not punish them, because the men themselves, the fathers and husbands, have sexual relations with whores and offer sacrifices with the temple prostitutes. It's the men who pick up the whores that I'm after, the men who sacrifice with prostitutes, a stupid people who come to ruin. When the beer runs out, it's sex, sex, and more sex, bold and sordid debauchery. How they love it. The whirlwind has them in its clutches. Their sex worship leaves them finally impotent. God is saying here that He will visit no punishment on the women for their licentiousness, because they are more sinned against than what they are sinning themselves. God will punish the fathers and husbands, for it is them who themselves have set the bad example. God is saying to men that He will not any more lay on the women any restraints. The men have rejected God's law. God is saying, why should I punish the women? For your men are doing the same thing. Husbands and fathers are examples to wives and daughters. Women are supposed to be honored and protected by men in their lives through godly male leadership and godly examples. God is saying to men that they shall have no bitter water of jealousy to discover, convict, and torment an adulterous wife, because the men are committing the same sexual sin. God is saying here that He will not by any strokes of His hand smite the women for the same sin that was sinned against them by men. This exemption will also increase the grief and shame of the men, and also only the men will be punished. It becomes clear that if a woman is guilty of the sin of adultery, but the husband is also committing adultery in secret, and that husband brings his wife before the priest to prove his wife's guilt, God only exposes the husband's sexual sin and keeps the wife's sexual sin hidden from her husband, and also hidden from the priest and from the community. God does not punish the woman when the authority in her life is living in sin himself. Then He only punishes the authority, which is the man of the house. So the adulterous wife now looks like a saint in the eyes of the community, because God let her go free. God did not punish her, but her husband, who brought her before the priest in the first place to have her sexual sin exposed, now gets caught out, and everyone now knows that he has been sleeping around himself. So the husband gets punished, humbled and embarrassed by God through the public exposure of his sexual sin, and the compassion of the community will be for the wife. Think about the following scenario for a moment. Say the woman knows that she is in fact guilty of adultery, but the dirty water did not find her guilty. When this happens, she also knows that the only way this could happen is when her husband is guilty of the same sin. So now the husband's adultery has been exposed to his wife, but the husband will never know about his wife's infidelity, as God is hiding it from him. So the husband is being made look like a fool whilst his adulterous wife gets off scot-free. So he now doesn't only look bad in the eyes of the community and in the eyes of the priest, but his wife also now knows about his sexual sin that he is trying to hide, because God has now exposed him to his wife. The guilty wife gets totally acquitted by God, and the dishonest husband gets exposed and punished. Only when the husband is sexually pure, God will find his adulterous wife guilty and punish her. Also the curse of the bitter water on the unfaithful woman, where she has to drink the bitter water, provides an innocent wife with a way for her husband to no longer condemn her. Since a man in those times could only divorce his wife only if she was unfaithful, this provides a way for her to prove that she is innocent and not be killed on the whims of a jealous husband or a husband who just wants a divorce for whatever selfish reason. It also prevents him from legally divorcing her simply with an accusation. And also women in those times did not work or could not provide for themselves, as it is God's commandment that a husband must provide for his own household. And to prevent women from getting divorced and kicked out by their husbands and left without provision and shelter, God provided this law of the bitter waters, so that women could actually appeal to this process and prove their innocence, so that the men could not just do whatever they pleased and harm their wives in their selfishness. This whole ritual of drinking dirty water sounds terrible to our minds today. To our modern society, it can be difficult to understand how God could bring in such a law and think that it is okay for people to drink water mixed with dirt. It just doesn't sound right or make sense, right? And this in itself can cause us to again doubt God's character and have a skewed perspective of God's fairness, when we, as I said before, do not know the context of this passage, in context of the whole Bible and in context of the ancient times and the customs of the people of the Old Testament. But when we study this in depth, we see a total different side of it which makes total sense. It wasn't a big deal for the children of Israel in the Old Testament to drink water mixed with dirt, as in Numbers 5, or have a dead animal's remaining ash mixed into water and poured over their bodies, as in Numbers 19. For them it was normal, as they viewed the water as being holy and clean. To them it was cleansing waters, as it was used for purification purposes in sanctification rituals under the law of Moses, to make the unclean clean. They didn't think it strange. It wasn't weird or gross to them as we would view it in today's modern days. We must always remember that when we read the Bible, we must read it in context, taking into consideration the times and the culture of those days. Which is normal in one culture or for one group of people is considered strange or even unacceptable in another culture or for another group of people. This is true even still today.